Sports reports, no gimmicks, no clowns. 2-5, Mr. Logical, we run this town. Real talk only, no chasing, no doubt. From the east to the west, it's the order we shout. Mic check, lights flash, game time, stay ready. 2 vets in the zone, keep the pressure real heavy. Big hits, big plays, yeah, we breaking it down. Truth rings in your speakers, every word is the crown. From the north side hustle to that southern flame. Midwest grind, west coast of the game. Sports talk kings, yeah, we wear that crown. Turn it up, let them know it's about to go down. Sports reports, no gimmicks, no clowns. 2-5, Mr. Logical, we run this town. Real talk only, no chaser, no doubt. From the east to the west, it's the order we shout.
It's about to go down.
Hey.
Yes. You are now listening to the sounds of Sports Reports as Ordered. We got a lot to talk about tonight. A lot going on in the football world. You know, coaches getting fired. Who else is on the hot seat?
Teams down in Georgia making victories happen. Know what I'm talking about?
Oh, you
they
see
tell
this?
us so that we back up. Put the word out, we back up. Y'all see this? Yeah, we ain't doing this no more. We back up. Let's go. Let's get rowdy. He back because his team lost last night. And we on a 2-game winning streak. We back. Put the word. Not mess with you, going. Put the word out. We back up.
All right. Well, like, review, subscribe, share, rate, do all the free things, do all the good things with a liquid death in your hand, Dr. Death, you know, that Dr. Pepper style. So, Mr. Logical, you know, as I awakened yesterday, was going through my day, everything was routine. Then I saw breaking news and I said to myself, oh, snap, Mike McDaniel finally got fired. I was wrong. It was Brian Callahan that got fired. So, how do you feel about this?
I mean, we'll talk about a couple other coaches as well. He wasn't really making any headway there. It didn't look like it was going to turn around. Normally you could say, well, he did this well. The team did this well. You know, if they just could have had a guy not get injured. It was like, yeah, you didn't give him the greatest quarterback talent. You gave him Mason Rudolph. They had the bull Malik Willis in there for a little bit, moved him along after when Vrabel left, and they had Will Levis, who just kind of looked the part physically, but his college tape didn't say that it is going to translate to the NFL at all. So I think he was in a situation that we often talk about a lot of black coaches. We just feel like you gave him a bare cupboard and didn't put anything in it to make a meal, and then get mad at him when he couldn't serve you Thanksgiving dinner. It's like, you didn't give me anything. Like, yeah, I got a couple potatoes in here. And then, yeah, I got this turkey, but it doesn't fit any of the pans I have. Like, I have this great young quarterback that you guys, you know, Warren Moon took his number out of retirement, think it was going to be like this great thing. And it's like, it hadn't worked. So something has to change. Did I think he'd get fired too early? Probably. Should let him finish out the year, because starting in the middle, like, you've been at training camp since March. Started training camp March. You drafted your quarterback in April. It's October. If the head coach had all this time to get it figured out, and how he got it figured out, who is this guy that's going to step in from October to presumably January, because I think their season ends in January, and make a difference? You're better off just letting them play it out. Maybe they could get it going to run, but unlikely. But what are you going to get from now until the end of the year?
See, I thought it was stupid because, you know, going back into the Sports Reports as Ordered archive, you know, I thought he should have been fired after last season, you know, especially if you have the number 1 draft pick, if you're going to draft a quarterback, you know, and granted, he's an offensive dude, so maybe you want to give him a chance with the new quarterback. But
offensive dude's rating is getting overused, but
yeah. But I'm looking at it from the standpoint of, why am I going to draft a quarterback at number 1 if my coach is on the hot seat in this way? Because I think that if the Titans I think that if the Titans went 6-11, depending on how it looked, he still might have got fired, if they let him coach out the full season, because he was doing things that were, well, I can't say the R word anymore, but they were dumb. Like, there were times where he could have challenged plays and he didn't look like he knew that he could, or that he didn't understand the rule enough to go ahead and throw the flag. He was doing things like that. Then he was having these press conferences.
Didn't he have the thing, I didn't know that one knee counted as 2 feet?
I don't remember.
That was him, right? I think it was a few weeks ago. It was on the catch. I believe it might have been the first
pass
week
against Denver. Yeah, that's the one I'm talking about.
Like, I didn't know like one knee equaled 2 feet or something, or one cheek. It was like either a knee or like a butt cheek or something like that. He didn't know that equal 2 feet.
And that's where I look at him. But then, me, I look at the other stuff too. So, like, for me, 4-19 record. Okay, bad team. It happens, whatever. He's an offensive dude, came over from Cincinnati under Zach Taylor and everything. One of these, probably McVay dudes, right? So out of the 23 games that he coached as the Titans head coach, they had 16 games where they didn't even score 20 points. You know what I mean? And you're trying to sell this dude as an offensive savant. You know what I mean? They got a shutout this year. You know what I mean? And when you look at it, they brought in a GM from Kansas City who I think had a good draft this year, but it goes back to the original point. Why keep him in the first place if you were going to draft this well and draft the number one pick as a quarterback? What up, Chris? Superstar.
It's the Chicago conundrum, and I think it's something that plagues a lot of organizations recently, because it's the same. Either way you do it, you're putting yourself in the same boat unless you flat out just start over. We saw Kingsbury and Kyler Murray end up in Arizona together after they got rid of Steve Wilkes and Josh Rosen. People thought that was a good idea. I think it worked for a while. I believe he had a couple seasons of like 11 and 10 wins. Kyler Murray looked like the exception to the rule, but injuries, the way he plays, scrambles, shit happens. You get injured. You can't sustain it. The wins and losses, someone has to go. You bring in a new body. Chicago has done it consistently, probably for like the last, what are we going to call it, like 10 years maybe? Like, have a coach, think this new coach can fix previous regimes, quarterback doesn't work, move off quarterback, take next quarterback, think this coach didn't get proper chance with previous quarterback, keeps him for a year, realize that can't work either, get rid of that coach, then bring in a new coach doesn't like current quarterback. They've done it all the way up until Caleb Williams. They're currently in that cycle right now. Now, if it works with Ben Johnson and Caleb Williams, that should stymie the tide for a while. What Tennessee's going to fall in trouble with is that you have Mike Vrabel. He was a winning coach. He was bringing a winning chemistry to your facility every single week. It doesn't always result in wins, but if you rely on it long enough, it's good to go. Like, if you have a good blackjack strategy, if you have a good craps betting strategy, you have a good pie gow strategy, whatever it is, eventually, you're going to take some losses, but because your strategy is consistent, you can implement it the same way and go head to head with the house. You're going to turn into victories. And I don't think they realize, like, it's not that easy just to turn a group of men into a team and have that team churn out victories at the rate that River was doing.
Well, the funny part about that, like, what you just said, is they actually got Mike Vrabel coming in this weekend, but looking at it from a certain standpoint, their offensive line has just been terrible, for the last couple of years as well. And you're compounding that with a rookie quarterback who my biggest criticism about, because I think he's a good player, but my biggest criticism about Cam Ward was he's not patient. He doesn't let it develop, but he's not the guy that's going to take off and try to run for 30 yards. He's just going to keep going in a circle around the pocket until something opens up. And then that leads to sacks, which he has been taking sacks. I know I was arguing with these people on TikTok. Yes, sacks can be the quarterback's fault too. And as bad as that offensive line is, he took some bad sacks, but that's not it, because his daddy, Brian Callahan's daddy, is the offensive line coach. And I know that Bill Callahan can coach. So either these players are really bad, or, he's just too long in the tooth. And I heard something interesting today. I'm still trying to verify it, but from what I heard earlier on the Pushing the Pile podcast, I believe it was, is that their right tackle from last year, their starting right tackle from last year, isn't even on a roster this year. You know what I mean? So that might answer that question. But J.C. Latham came into this season, with some injury issues, weight issues, these type of things. So when you compound it all together, and you got to remember the leadership in place didn't hire this dude. They didn't hire Callahan. So that's death knell number one.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And so real quick, as I'm going to ask you this question. So I brought up how the GM came over from the city. I done heard Nagy's name, as potentially the next head coach. I done heard Arthur Smith. This is my, so I'm gonna leave those two names right there, and I'm gonna give you my name.
Okay.
My name is go back to that well and get Cliff Kingsbury. But go ahead.
I mean, one thing I think they should do, I think if you want to go get your standard retread, early 40s, mid 40s, by the book head coach, do it. Just build your team around what that coach can do well. The problem is, I think they hire these coaches off relationships and names, and it doesn't work. Or you got to be honest. Is Matt Nagy a good offensive coordinator / returning head coach? Or does Patrick Mahomes, Kelsey, and Andy Reid make calling a screen for Juju Smith-Schuster easy because you have those kind of players?
Well, you don't want to Eric Bieniemy yourself, though, because, you know what I'm saying, if you got that connection and don't take that job, I don't know if there's another one for you.
I don't think Bieniemy was liked in the room. I think because even we watched Arthur Smith in Atlanta not be creative for 3 years. But I think he's liked in the room. I think he just plays that position better. We could keep it a bean. Black coaches tend to not seem to have that same grace to just allow themselves that space in the room, whereas white coaches do. And I think they operate better because I think it's more familiarity. Like if you're a white coach trying to get hired at HBCU, it might be difficult to walk into the meeting with all like the people who just graduated from that college or, the alumni. Well, you don't relate. You don't immediately relate. I'm not saying you can't relate, but you don't immediately relate. You and I walk into an HBCU, we immediately relate to someone in there. Whereas Arthur Smith probably doesn't. So when you're Eric Bieniemy, who might be a little rough around the edges, might not be as diplomatic as you want him to be, it might be a little tough. Everybody's not Tony Dungy. Tony Dungy was a great coach. He's a great man, but he also kind of made it easy to invite him into the space. We could talk about that, till the cows come home. I don't think it'd be a smart move to get a retread, but the problem that they're going to run into is what if Cam Ward can't play? How many years you giving him?
Well, you got to give him as many years as the Cardinals are giving Kyler Murray, but I'll get back to that in a minute.
Well, Kyler Murray got an extension, so he has a little money tied into his time there. And like I said, once again, they got a new coach. But you just got to look around. Did you do your due diligence when guys were available? It's like dating. I know that you are the team, and you figure you have all the leverage because you're the hiring person. You might have to just kind of bow down and court someone. You might have to put an extra $1 million in that annual salary to get Ben Johnson out of Detroit early.
Hold on. We ain't talking about Penn State just yet.
You might need to relinquish a little bit of your position, because no matter how you feel about yourself as an owner, and you look at your bank account, your football product is not a desirable place to be. You might be a great businessman. You might have oil money, real estate money, investment money, hedge fund money. You might have all of this money, but your company that is the Tennessee Titans football team is not the commodity that you think it is. You might have to just lower your expectations and say, hey, you know what? We're going to give this guy who's a little unproven, but I think he can do something, a few more extra dollars versus being like, you know what? You're a new coach. We're giving you an opportunity. Like, nah, man, your team's in a dumpster fire. I'm here with the fire department. I'm helping you out.
So Mike McCoy, former coach of the Chargers, is going to be the interim coach. But since you brought up something that I like right there, what kind of commodity is the Miami Dolphins?
I like Tua, and I like their team is just small.
I've never heard you say a good thing about him.
I like Tua. I just don't think he can throw the ball in a windstorm. Like, I mean, a breeze. I think he can throw it short. I think he throws short slants. But they built their whole team around speed, but they're all small. All of their guys there's DK Metcalf is fast. He can run those same routes Jalen Waddle run. You know what I mean? We talk about Tyquan Thornton. He's a slim guy, but he's 6'2", 6'3". Like
AJ
you can
Brown.
get AJ Brown. Like you can get big, fast wide receivers, but they just built their team around everybody small. I think Ali Gore might be their biggest skill player outside of tight end.
We got you.
Yeah, I just think that I think the glamour of Miami, and I know we talk about this like, oh, Pittsburgh, this grimy city, this gritty city. Chicago's a gritty city. They're just lunch pail city. They drive their pickup trucks to work, and Miami is all Bentleys and Ferraris. But they play like that. They don't play like a tough team. We talked about it for years. Shout out to Chris Broussard on First Things First. He calls them break dancers. We've been calling them break dancers for years. They can't play in the cold. It's like, how are you, just because it's cold, you can't win a game in the cold? Like, there's teams in California that win games in the cold all the time. There's other teams that play in the dome that come outside and win games all the time. It's like, how is it that that's your thing? Like, you never win when it's cold, ever? That's a testament to, like, the lack of just this toughness of your team. And I think that extends from the coach. I think the coach, once again, I know Rez gets on me for, like, my whole size, speed, weight comparisons, but it is a fact that people respond to people who are big in the room. A big presence, a big personality, someone to respect, someone to follow. I think Mike McDaniel is a small guy. He talks small. He doesn't have any bass in his voice. It's just like, it's hard to get in a position of where you want to follow this guy when it gets tough. You need a guy like, this is extreme, like a guy like Ray Lewis, Ed Reed in the locker room as a college football player probably has, like, if you played that speech for the Miami Dolphins players, they would get more pumped up. Listen to Ed Reed talk about something from 24 years ago than anything Mike McDaniel will say at a halftime speech. I just don't think he commands the room. I think it's a big part.
Well, not only that, but it doesn't help when your quarterback gets in the press conference and talks about how people they're late to the player meetings and they're this and they're that. And it's like, well, first of all, you're a team captain. You know what I'm saying? Like, it's your job to galvanize them and get them into that meeting. Then there was a former Dolphin who tweeted, well, when I was in Miami, Tua was late for the meetings. And then Mike McDaniel came out and was basically like,
Tua talks too much.
Yeah. And then Mike McDaniel came out and was basically like, hey, yo, like, he the franchise quarterback and everything, but some things you just don't say in public. You know what I mean? So now you got a quarterback coach rift potentially, which nobody wants. But then as you look at Miami, to the toughness point, we talked about this last offseason during our preview. They're the worst team on 3rd and 1, 4th and 1. You know what I mean? And that goes into that cold weather narrative that you were talking about, which isn't even really a narrative. So I was just wondering,
at this point, it's mathematically proven at this point.
Yeah, and I was trying to figure out, I was confused because I don't know why Mike McDaniel is still there. But then when I look upstairs and I see Greer still up in there, he's been there since 2000? They haven't won a playoff game since 2000? You know what I'm saying? Miami might just have a problem and no leadership that knows when it's time to pull the plug.
I think I shared a video with you and Chris, our resident Dolphins fan, about some of these owners and some of the ownership groups, the football team is a guaranteed cash cow because the league is profitable. There's no need to rock the boat when the owners and ownership groups, I think they're splitting between $1 and $2 billion a week. It's a very just like, as I own this team, I own this percentage of the team. I can bank on every Tuesday when all the money is cleared up and we get the ticket sales, because like each team has to split the ticket sales with the visiting team. I don't know exactly what the percentage is, but they do get a cut. So it might be 60, 40, 55,
Washington
45.
got in trouble for not
Washington got in trouble for the fake docs and then not paying up, that type of money. But it's like, once again, if you're a Super Bowl winning team, talk about that old school Washington, you're not worried about nickel and diming your opponent. You're focused on trying to win games. But some of these teams are just like, I'm getting this money. And yeah, I'll pay the players that I have to pay, but the rest of these guys can sit out and I'll let them walk because I can replace them with one of the 1,000 football players from these 135 Division I schools. I can get another guy to play corner or safety. I don't have to give this guy $30 million a year to do that. And I'm still getting my check.
And I need to.
If we lose, oh well, I'm still getting paid on Tuesday, and I can't imagine what a check looks like when you are one of 32 teams.
But see,
and $1.7 billion check gets divided by 32, and I get that's sent to you. Like, I can't imagine what that kind of money is, but I guarantee you, it doesn't make you give a damn about a victory.
See, Brian Callahan, he got fired. The offense wasn't doing their job. Outside of the Colts game to start the season, Miami's offense hasn't looked putrid, which is, Mike McDaniel's specialty. So he definitely can serve as an offensive coordinator somewhere, down the line. But Greer, I got to study him. He came to the team in 2000 as a scout and became GM in 2016. So, now we go back and look at the history of Miami, and did they just fire Brian Flores because he couldn't get along, to your point about walking in those rooms? And
he wanted to win. He wanted to win, and he didn't want to sell tickets. They wanted Tom Brady there to sell tickets. There was no guarantee that Tom Brady, 40 plus, you're going to have to cheat the system just to get Tom Brady there. Brian Flores knew that was like, yo, I'm trying to win football games. Y'all are trying to be a show. Y'all trying to be the Miami show. You're trying to get David Beckham to come to the games. You're selling steak to J-Lo and Gloria Estefan and Serena Williams, and you have them at the game. None of these people give a damn about football. It's like you're just getting famous people who like to hang out in Miami to come to your game, as if you were the Miami Hurricanes and you're trying to recruit people. It's like you're an NFL franchise. You need to be getting players in there. Like, keep in mind, like, granted, no one knows what's going on, but you took Tua, you could have had Justin Herbert. You looked at a guy that was injury prone in college behind probably one of the best offensive line groups in recent college football history, in that Alabama offensive line room for all those years, and how Nick Saban had that thing oiled up. Yet he's still getting hurt all the time. All the time he's hurt in college, getting surgery. He had hip surgery before that draft. And you said, you know what? We're taking Tua. I mean, you could add Justin Herbert. So it's like, I just think they just compound the mistakes because they do that because I don't think they understand. Like,
move? Is that going to be the move? So McDaniel out and Tua out?
I mean, if the money that Tua's getting paid is hard to come off of, then Tua's staying. I think McDaniel is out because I don't know if we can ask Chris, if you're a fan, what do you think? What's going to be the improvement that McDaniels is going to make, considering how poorly the team seems to function in they're operating in some kind of chaotic environment, and the wins, like I said, wins can cover up how badly your environment is.
Well,
but the losses expose it.
Well, it's one of those things because Anthony Weaver, the defensive coordinator, who I would assume would be the interim if they did decide to let McDaniel go, he has this reputation around the league as this rising star, and he's viewed as like that guy is head coach material. And but Miami's defense, and I don't know if it's a talent thing because we are, I've been talking about their secondary, for the longest time, but but they did have Bradley Chubb. He got hurt. Jalen Phillips got hurt. They got Chop Robinson now. They have Siegler, so they have talent on the defense that I would think that this defensive coordinator that is going to be a rock star head coach one day can scheme up and make look better than they might be than their collective parts or whatever. We see this all the time. So I don't know if McDaniel is actually the problem or if he's just the front man because he's the head coach. He's the guy that we see and hear from. I think that might be more the issue than anything else, even though you could argue, well, he hired them. So
like I said, or something huge happening. How McDaniel was tied.
Well, something huge happening. They're 1-5 right now. They got to go 1-10. I don't know, but but I don't. I'm not a Mike McDaniel naysayer, if you will.
Yeah.
Like I said, I just think that I think he's coaching a poor franchise, a poorly run franchise, and generally you're not going to fire the GM without. So, and he obviously has the owner's ear. He has Ross's ear. But so somebody's got to go, and generally it's going to be the coach. But we'll see how that plays out. But anyway, there was a lot of football happening on the field this weekend.
I watched a lot of football.
Mr. Logical.
Rachel endured a lot of back-to-back football games. She was not happy.
Should the refs have given Jared Goff his touchdown and gave that guy his $13K?
Listen, as soon as I seen it happen, I thought it was a cool play. Once again, Detroit trying to prove they don't need Ben Johnson. I didn't think it was a necessary play. I think that'd have been a great play on like 1st and 10 from the 50. Like I thought it'd been a dope play then. Just something that just kind of like a little thing. They didn't call it when the play was live. He got into the end zone. They should not have taken it away. I talk about this with the NBA when they do the review. And it's like the review is, did it go off Draymond Green's foot or did LeBron foul him? Or no, did it go off Draymond Green's foot or not? Cool. You see the replay. Well, it went off Draymond Green's foot, but LeBron fouled him first. So LeBron fouled him first. So we're going to give Draymond free throws. Like, I don't like that. So when you don't make the call and the touchdown, the arms are raised, the play came right at a referee. He's standing on the goal line, standing right at the pylon. If he didn't call it, then it's a touchdown for Detroit. You kick the extra point and you press on.
Yeah, because I think that changed the momentum of the game, even though I do think it was the right call, because as a Washington fan, trust me, I've seen that call plenty of times in my life, going back years. But that was my stance on it too. But it goes back to, part of this goes back to what we were talking about the other day. Stop leaving Kansas City for dead. They win way too much for you to just suddenly think that they forgot how to. I know last season the whole talk about Kansas City was referee. But, the numbers don't bear that out. And, Kansas City still has a great quarterback, fast wide receivers, not necessarily great, but they're fast. They still have Chris Jones on the other side of the ball. Big game.
He was terrorizing Jared Goff. And so, he was in his grill like his face mask. Like every single time he wanted to get through, he was getting through. Yeah.
So my question about this game isn't about Kansas City. My question about this game is Detroit, because, they came out week 1. They got smacked around by the Packers, and then they went on this run. They beat the Ravens when we thought the Ravens were still good. But then they beat Cleveland. They beat Cincinnati. They had their, hey, Ben Johnson, we hate you now, and we're going to run up the score on you game. Yeah. But is Detroit going to be that team that looks pretty, but then loses whenever they face adversity?
like, I understand what you're saying there. The NFL is, we're going to call it, okay, actually 32 teams. About 8 to 10 have kind of shown themselves to be subpar. We probably
Okay.
have, like, if you had to guess what I got, we got 1 coach fired.
Mm-hmm.
I have 3 and a possible on the hot seat right now.
Okay.
On top of the teams that, like,
who are they?
I got Stefanski. I got Aaron Glenn, and what's the guy in Zach Taylor.
All right, we'll come back to Aaron Glenn
John
specifically. in a
Harbaugh's
minute.
another one. So, like, there's a handful of teams that are just playing so poorly that
I'm going
I
to
think
add
they're in the hot
Gannon
seat.
to that list.
Was that in Arizona?
Yeah, I'm adding him
Yeah.
to the list. But we'll
So
come
it's-
back to that.
So yeah, so like of the 32 teams, one's already fired a coach. We got 6 between you and I. We got 6 other coaches on the hot seat. So that gives you 24 teams that are good. Detroit's probably in that 6 to 8 range right now. So when they're playing any of these other teams that are 1 through 8, it's going to be a toss up. So yeah, you're going to beat the brakes off of teams. Like, you're going to beat Cleveland. You're probably going to beat Baltimore if Lamar's not back. You're probably going to beat a team like Arizona if Kyler Murray's not back. So you're going to get your wins, but it's going to be a toss-up between the good teams. I think they're a couple plays away. Like Dan Campbell said it at the halftime. He's like, we're three plays away from the game being completely different. Amon-Ra St. Brown dropped the easy slant on 4th and 2. They had that touchdown get called back, and I think they had another like silly penalty that cost them a first down. That the score is different, the momentum's different, everything after that. So I think they'll be fine. It's just like I said last week when Kansas City lost to Jacksonville and everybody said the sky was falling. I was like, they looked like a team that knew how to score points. It just so happened that Trevor Lawrence put on his cape, Travis Hunter made plays, and they just made plays down the stretch. They have, the linebacker out of University of Utah, shout out, go Utes. I mean, he had the 97, 99-yard pick 6. It's like those kind of things happen when you need to beat a team that's better than you, being Jacksonville versus Kansas City. But I didn't think Kansas City struggled with their offensive identity. So I knew what I saw against Jacksonville would translate. Now, would the score have been probably more like 34-31 if, they were kind of pressing Kansas City more? Yeah. But once again, I would consider it a toss-up game if you don't have those 3 bad plays. Because I don't think Kansas City like really dominated. They killed them up front though. The defensive front was getting the golf rather easily, and that's something they got to work on. But
yeah, and like I said, teams like Kansas
and they're
City
getting people back healthy.
Teams like Kansas City don't forget how to win, and oh, by the way, Rashee Rice is back. So, over in London, and I don't know why London still likes America, because we send them awful product all the time. So,
London
me, right?
Likes competition. But
those
dudes like comp. They watch. You ever seen the dart throwing competition?
Yeah,
the arena's packed.
Well, I love these defensive low scoring games, right? But I have to say, and this is not hyperbole, I know we live in this era where everything was the best and the worst and all that. No, that Denver Jets game was the worst football game I've ever watched. And, you had Bo Nix, still missing the wide open receivers in the back of the end zone. You had Justin Fields still looking like he's never rode a bike, and you just put him training wheels on and he can't figure out how to balance the bike. You know what I mean? You got Aaron Glenn scared to throw the ball to get in field goal range at the end of the half because he's afraid of what Justin Fields is going to do. When, oh, by the way, if you would have got a field goal there, you probably win the damn game since it was 13-11. You know what I'm saying? Now Garrett Wilson is hurt. So back to what you were trying to bring up before.
Yeah.
Is Aaron Glenn, 1, going to make it through the season? 2, is he going to be there after the season?
He's not going to be not after the season.
Not after the season.
Because
enough.
In order for me as an employer, I can give you a rocky start as you're transitioning to a new position. I got to give you a favorable amount of time to adapt to that. And in that transition period, I got to see some progress. I have to understand there's going to be some shortcomings, but I have to see progress. If you lose a game 27-24 because you couldn't get the field goal unit on the field, then I was like, okay, the next week, if you iron that out, you get the field goal off, and then the other team gets on and you go back and forth. Like, okay, cool, we're improving, we're more competitive. But if you can't get the field goal unit on 1 week, and then you come out, you lose 30-3 the next week, and then your quarterback only has 3 completions, and then you come out another game later that year after you had that 3 completion game for your starting quarterback. He missed a game because of concussion, and then he come out and he has 9 completions and gets sacked 9 times.
You know how many yards he had passing?
Was it like it was in the third?
He had 45 yards passing
on 9 completions
in an NFL game.
And this is the second time this year that's happened.
And this ain't a rookie.
He's not a rookie. He's physically gifted. He's physically talented. He has attributes that you can use. But every 4th and 1, they're in shotgun trying to throw it. Man, put 2 tight ends on the left side and put him in shotgun if you want. But this is quarterback power all the way. Get out of bounds. Get this 1 yard and come back, and we'll call that dig route on first down.
And by the way, you still got Breece Hall and Braylon Allen. You know what I mean?
Guys, those guys keep getting hurt too. But it's just like as a Falcon fan, I talk about like I would like bigger defensive tackles. They blitz the hell out of these linebackers. They play a lot of safeties, a lot of skill position size players running around 230, 225. Like a lot of guys doing that. And it's like, sometimes it works. Like last night it worked. But ultimately, I would like a Peter, Vea in the middle that's kind of on 3rd and 1. He can stop that run, and that was 4th and 3 or 4th and 4. Like, I would like that to happen instead of like, that just kind of risking it. With the Jets, it's like we have years of film on Justin Fields. And the problem is he looks for the big play. Hey, OC, I need you to stress to him, get it into the flat when the flat is the read. Garrett Wilson's not going to beat the linebacker underneath, the corner in cover 3, and the safety standing in the middle of the field on this dig route. It's not happening.
Which is
just
odd.
The check down.
Yeah, which is odd because the OC, came over from Detroit. He was Jared Goff's quarterback coach. So, I mean, like, you would feel there's an architecture that he could bring to put in place.
Granted, I don't know who their second wide receiver. I've watched 3 Jet games.
Lazard.
I haven't seen him touch the ball. I've legit watched. I watched I watched the first week game. Then I watched the Buffalo game, and I watched this last. And I watched some more because that's my local. That's what I get on my local channel. So I get like 2 games for my local. So normally it's like the Giants if they play at 1:00, or the overseas game. I'll get that one. I'll get 2 local ones. So like I'll toss back and forth. So I've watched a lot of Jet games, and every time I watch, it's like I don't know what you guys planned in your week of prep. I don't know what your goal was. I don't know who you were expecting to attack defensively. Dallas has. Whoever number 6 is for Dallas, I keep forgetting his name because he just gets burnt. All I see is his number out of position and the touchdown going over his head every week. They didn't challenge him at all that whole game. And it's like he got torched by Caleb Williams, the same type of quarterback Justin Fields is, where it's like feast or famine, athleticism. They didn't attack him. It's like I'm sitting here in my couch in a gamer chair saying, this dude gets beat every week. He's out of position every week. When he's supposed to be deep, he's shallow, and it's a touchdown over his head every single week. It happened again on Sunday.
Bro.
So it's like
every single week that we do Sports Reports is ordered. And this is for y'all out there, fans and audience. Every single week we come on Sports Reports is ordered. Every week, Mr. Logical says, number 6 from Dallas. And every week I say, his name is Donovan Wilson.
I couldn't even think of the name as you were saying it. Like maybe it was going to pop. I was thinking Malik something, but that's Malik Hooker, number 28, who actually makes plays. Hence why I know what his name is.
And we'll get to Dallas here in a second.
Just forgot his name. What is it again?
Donovan Wilson.
Swear to God, I just forgot his name.
By the way, no relation. So but hey, who touched the ball a little bit too much this weekend? And I know this is one of those like dumb statements because he's a quarterback, but I know you did not game plan all week for Dylan Gabriel to throw the ball 52
times.
You did not sit around this week and say the key to victory is.
I saw that stat line. I saw that stat line. I was like, Stefanski, you got to be the dumbest smart guy in the room.
With those 52 passes?
236?
221.
So it's like what, 5 1/4?
I think
5.2
when I was looking at it earlier, it was about 4.3 yards of air. Like, you know what I mean, of air that he was throwing in most of the, and he hit a receiver in the head. You know what I mean? Now, granted, the receiver was probably supposed to be looking, but you know what I mean?
Yeah. Like I said, he looks for Isaiah Bond a lot. Yeah.
We're gonna see Shador sooner than later, right?
Nah.
Okay.
I don't know. I don't know because Pittsburgh's a solid defense.
Hold on, let me rephrase real quick. We're gonna see Shador if Stefanski gets fired, right?
Oh, you have to. You have to. I don't know if it's a Stefanski, Dylan Gabriel, Shador thing because I'll play devil's advocate. All right, I'm Stefanski. I drafted this guy in the 3rd round. Somebody made them take Shador in the 5th round. At least that's what some of the reports, the rumors. I don't know if it's been substantiated or not, but it does not seem as if it makes sense because they're not even the same type of quarterback. You know what I mean? And like I said, I use a comparison to RG3 and Kirk Cousins. They were both rookies. They were 4 rounds apart. And maybe somebody in the building just really having the idea of let me get 2 rookies in here learning simultaneously. I don't know how great that was. It did tend to work out because they had Kirk Cousins for a while, but they ended up paying him a lot of money. He's made a lot of money in his career. I don't understand why you draft a project quarterback in the 3rd round because I think Dylan Gabriel was more of a project quarterback than Shador. So if you'd have taken Shador in the 3rd, I think you still could have had Gabriel in the 5th because I'm not seeing a single NFL rosters like I want an undersized left-handed guy other than Miami who already has one. I think Tua's listed as 6 foot, but I imagine he's probably closer to 5'10". So I thought naturally that was the move for Miami was to figure out how to get Dylan Gabriel in the building because your offense is the same, the language is the same, the motions are the same. Having him throw the ball 52 times, it's never good. That's not a good philosophy for Jared Goff. And Jared Goff's been to Super Bowl. That's not a good philosophy for, fucking Mahomes.
You don't even
Mahomes.
Remember that game against the Titans a couple years ago? He threw it 61 times and they only scored 17 points.
And they barely won. And Malik Willis threw it 17 times. And it was the greatest.
And that was one thing I forgot to say. That was another thing too, because with the Malik Willis thing, we saw LaFleur go out there and win games with Malik Willis last year.
Because LaFleur has a sustained system that works. It's like this. If you have Mike Allstott going back in the day, he's a bruising back. His plays, you can call for him. If you want another running back to do what he does, you have to get a guy that plays like him.
You have to get Peyton Hillis.
You got to get Peyton Hillis. That's all you can do. So if you look at Atlanta has Algier and Bijan. They both can hit the same kind of run plays, but Algier doesn't go out in routes. But the pistol handoff, they both can do because they're both physical backs.
I don't like.
We talked about I like it sometimes. If you get creative with it, but we talk about Justice Hill, and Derrick Henry. They're two completely different sized guys to the point where it gives it away. Like you're not calling the same play. And I'm not sure what Stefanski's doing with his guys because, like, you have a small, undersized quarterback with an average or below average NFL arm. He shouldn't be throwing the ball more than 32 times.
Yeah.
That should be the number for almost every quarterback.
So in a bit of sad news, my favorite player in the league is out for the season. What is in that San Francisco water that keeps getting these dudes hurt? Like, I mean, granted, that one he
Fred Warner.
Yeah, that one he got rolled up on, so you can't really call that one that was probably more of a freak accident the way that he got rolled up.
The craziest thing, I was thinking about this the other day. He was like smiling in the cart going off the field. It's like, dog, I had to cover my eyes up. Like I knew something was up because like the tackle happened and multiple players were waving for the trainers. Like this is a universal sign something's wrong. Because I think Lawrence Taylor did the same thing when he sacked Joe Theismann. Right. Like that's like a universal, y'all need to hurry up, get out of here. So I saw that hurry up move. I was like, I can't look. But then he was like smiling on the cart. It's just we talk about these players and talk about how guys should be fired and benched and stuff like that and who sucks and everything else. And I'm not shitting on these guys' craft. I understand like they've probably been playing this game since they were 7, 8, 9 years old, playing at a higher level than anything I've done in my career other than like, doing this Air Force thing. So they have done something with their lives and they've made it this far. And it sucks that it can end as quickly as it did because he's just always around the ball. I don't know if he actually made the tackle, but he just knows football so well and he plays so aggressively, he plays so smart that he's around the ball and he got injured and he's out for, he's not going to take another NFL snap in a live real game until next September. That's probably a tough pill to swallow when you dedicate your life and it's October. It's like, I'm not playing another real football game until September. So I got 11 months of nothing. So that's very tough for.
So random question, getting back upbeat for a second. Who do you think leads the league in receiving yards?
I saw this. I believe is Jackson Smith and Jigba.
You damn right it is. Thank you, Fantasy Football. But hey, here's another one for you then, Smarty Pants. Who had 239? Who had 239 total yards this weekend?
Bijan Robinson.
No, not him.
Yeah, he did.
Not him yet. Not him yet.
I think Rico Dowdle.
Yes.
Did he have 239 again?
Yes. And, he took it personal. So I know that you were big on the Cowboys, you know what I mean, coming into this season, So where are you today on the Cowboys besides Donovan Wilson?
That's a big piece. That's a huge piece because it's like you are getting hit with the right hook. It's the jab setting up the right hook, and you're getting hit with it every single week. And it's like, just put your hand up. Just put your left hand up. That's all you got to do. You have to do nothing else. You don't have to duck. You don't have to bob. You don't have to weave. Just put your hand up and let him hit the glove, and then you can counter off of that. But if you keep leaving your hand down, he's going to keep hitting you with his right hand. Dallas keep getting hit with this hook, and it's like, dog, just stay deeper than the deepest guy. Don't bite on the underneath stuff. We have people for that. You are deep middle third. Stay deep middle third. That way no one runs behind you. No matter where you are. If you're in the end zone, don't worry about the dude crossing at the 5 when the guy's running behind you to the back line of the end zone and there's no one else there. Your job is to be back here. Just be here and you can block that right hook. But instead, you got your chin out, getting hit with it every single time is crucial.
Yeah.
The Giants game, this dude had Russell Wilson looking like prime Marino with Vic speed and Tom Brady's intelligence and Jesus immortality. I mean, it was ridiculous how good he made Russell Wilson look. And then he gets benched for a guy a week later. I'm saying, like, it's ridiculous. So shout out to Dallas. Dak was playing well. No, I'm not buying Carolina. I'm still not buying. I'm not buying anybody in the division.
I'm liking it. I'm enjoying the ride. I still think they top out at about 7 wins. But
I'm liking what I am liking, though. I want to mention it now. I'm liking the young quarterbacks of the last few drafts actually going out here and getting busy, because we're going to talk about the NBA here within the next week or so. It's not a lot of young guns that are getting the credit and the acclaim and the accolades and taking that mantle away from some of these old heads. These young quarterbacks, Drake May, Bryce Young's doing his thing. And of course, you got Michael Penix he's on the come up. Jaden Daniels, obviously, Caleb Williams is seeming to figure it out, and I think Ben Johnson scheming up crazy looking plays but easy passes. Like, it's a lot of shit happening, but it's like, yo, all you gotta do is hit the tight end over here. It's a 50-yard corner. All this other stuff is just window dressing, all this movement around, but just hit Komet over here and we're good to go.
So you know how we talk about it's too early. It's too early in the season. We still got a lot of season to go. It's week 6, right? Or it's about to be week 7. Correct. I have no idea what the hell the Green Bay Packers are still. Like, I don't know if they're playing down to their competition. I don't know if, I overrated them. I don't know if I just don't know what I mean, for one, Joe Flacco threw 45 passes against them this weekend and they didn't even get a pick. That's like impossible to do, you would think.
Yeah.
The running game isn't necessarily, even though they have Josh Jacobs, the running game isn't necessarily dominant or overpowering or anything like that. I just don't know what the Packers are right now.
It's like you said, it is early. And I think we saw Jordan Love have that 18 touchdown, 1 interception run a couple of years back for the latter part of the season. So it could be that. It could be a filling out phase because they do have, they're a pretty solid team across the board. I've liked their coach. I think he's kind of made himself known as a good coach post Aaron Rodgers relationship kind of falling apart, because I think people were torn between who's making who look good. Was LaFleur making Aaron look good or vice versa? But I think they're kind of realizing, I think LaFleur was on to something and he was building something. Then you get Jordan Love in and it kind of continues.
So it wasn't Belichick Brady?
It was Belichick's defense, Brady's I don't know. Brady has something else. Like, I don't think Belichick made Brady like better. I don't think Belichick said anything to Brady that was like awe-inspiring and made him a better quarterback. I think they just matched the competitiveness of like, I'm taking care of this, you do your job. And Tom's like, well, you do your damn job, and I'm gonna do my damn job. Robert Kraft, you do your job, you pay these dudes, keep me here. I'm gonna do my job because I'm that guy. And I don't think he really needed that same kind of cultivation that other quarterbacks do. But I mean, if you look at like these games, some teams are done this week 7. You can probably put a fork in about 6 teams.
Like, for the fact that Jacoby Brissett had a better game than Kyler Murray had all year, and he only had Harvin Marison for half the game.
Some of these teams are done. I think
327 yards.
I think the Bengals, you could put a fork in them. I think you could put a fork in the Browns. You could put a fork in the Titans. The Saints play a little tougher, but I think they're like, a defensive lineman, an offensive tackle, guard. A couple of those guys missing 1 or 2 games away from looking terrible. Yeah. I think they play well. I don't think they have like the pieces you need. I know it's going to drive the Saints fans crazy. I'm not trying to dog on y'all. We're just being realistic here.
Yeah, 7 weeks in. Then you got the Raiders and the Jets.
Raiders and Jets. The Jets held the team to 13 points on Sunday, and at no point in that game do you believe they were going to win.
It's ridiculous. But now,
realistically, if you look, I turned it on. It was 10-6, and I was like, oh, I should have taken the under. I did. I think I hit on the under for the first half, but at no point did I think they were going to figure it out, because I don't understand their identity. And I think now the Broncos figured it out too.
I'm going to step out the way. Tell me about these dirty birds.
The crazy thing is, when I made the pick last week, because we only did the one show last week, I said Atlanta's gonna blitz a lot of linebackers and a lot of these new hybrid defensive end players that we have. And if it gets through, I think they'll have a chance because it's gonna create sacks, gonna create long third downs, stuff like that. I just don't trust the offense. I think it's very vanilla. It looks dynamic, but really we're kind of in a bind. How many times can we get it to Bijan anywhere around the line of scrimmage? And it works. But I looked at the second half. Drake London had 9 catches, 147 yards in the first half. He didn't get his first catch in the second half until our first possession in the fourth quarter. They had the 21 points at halftime. They got the 1 field goal block, and then they got a field goal. So they're up 2 possessions. The defense playing great. But the defense was like a lot of feast or famine. Because even on an interception, they happened to just swap out the whole defensive line. So that guy had enough energy to chase Josh Allen to that spot to make him throw the ball that way because they were moving the ball. I don't think they would have got the onside kick. I think the onside kick rules are pretty much set up for the receiving team to get it. Like you have to you really got to mess up. Like you got to kick the ball or fall and throw it in the air because it's so set up for you to just safely get the ball without anyone getting a concussion. So I think even if they had gotten a touchdown, Atlanta would have gotten the ball back, taken knees, and the score would have been 21-24. But having a fresh defensive lineman in to knock the ball down, I would like more creativity in the second half. I would like more because Bijan is like he's gonna make a big play. I don't think we have to give it to him like 3 times in a row, hoping that big play happens. Like either the handoff to the right, screen pass to the left, and then another put him out in the flat and then have him, like we know he's going to be dynamic with the ball in his hand. I want to get the ball to Kyle Pitts. So when a team that can really scheme up, how do we suppress Bijan in space? Or, he just gets winded and you got to bring in Algier. All right, what routes work with Kyle Pitts? Where can we put Kyle Pitts and Drake London on the same side of the field and get openings? Who's the third receiving guy? Who's the third option from the wide receiver position? So I like what they did. Like I said, defensively, I believe it worked on Buffalo because Buffalo doesn't have Stephon Diggs, Jamar Chase, a guy that like Justin Jefferson that just gets open, like just knows how to sit in the zone, just knows how to beat man coverage, knows how to beat press. Because when they were blitzing, it was a lot of man-to-man on the outside. So the fact that Buffalo doesn't have that guy, I think that helped Atlanta. Blitz.
So do people like me need to slow our roll on Buffalo, or is this just, hey, it's a long season?
Well, we all knew the team looks a lot like it did last year, where it's superhero Josh Allen and the defense that flies around. But you lose Matt Milano for a couple of games. You lost, I think, another their other safety.
I think Bosa on a pitch count, basically.
Bosa got in clean, but Trey White dropped the coverage, and Bijan was wide open.
He played awful last night.
So it's just little things like that is going to affect them because some teams can make a mistake and still get the 10 points in the fourth quarter to tie the game up that they need. And some teams have to stay within striking distance, or you got to do everything right in the first half and make the other team change their game plan. Going into the second half, up 14, damn near almost 21, Drake London could have kept his toe up, and because he touched the pylon, but his toe touched out of bounds first. You didn't get Atlanta out of there, running it out of the pistol, stretching it. Like they didn't make Atlanta change up what they're doing. So, Buffalo has to they have to have the 14-10, 17-10 lead sometime to make teams kind of like feel like, oh, Josh Allen's about to do this thing. We gotta press.
And maybe they make a mistake. Yeah.
Yeah. So if not, it's gonna be tough because like I say, they don't have the threats outside that they need.
So did I ever mention how much I hate the Washington Commanders?
You talk about it every once in a while.
And of course, this is Dallas week too. So, like this is as soon as Dallas lost that game to Carolina, I said, damn it. But anyway,
Now they up.
you know what I'm saying? So I was looking at this and, and of course I'm stat guy, right? So Bears 31st in the league against the run. Washington first in the league in yards per carry coming into last night. 7 out of Washington's first 10 plays were passes. And of course, Jaden throws the interception as we're on the verge of entering the red zone. So I'm like, okay, settle down, whatever the case may be. Then it happened. Like our secondary just gets beat. But last night it was a little bit different. Like they were getting beat in the flats. It's one thing when you're getting beat over the top or maybe a crossing route takes you out. But, you shouldn't be getting done up by hitches and curls and, dudes turning up field on you. And of course, the game was still winnable because if Jaden doesn't bobble that snap, we probably run the clock out. So
Correct.
I don't want to put too much into, Washington did this, Washington did that. But what I'm not liking is you talked about a couple of weeks ago how Buffalo was so reliant on Josh Allen. And, that's what I'm seeing with Washington because Washington still ran the ball plenty, but it was him. So it wasn't designed, it wasn't like actual running play. I know the rookie fumbled early, but it was a whole lot of,
and the rain was weird on the East Coast this past weekend. It was very odd. Like I had to fly out to pick my daughter up.
Was wild.
Yeah, I flew out to pick my daughter up Saturday, and we're flying back, and we're heading into DC. We're flying from the Midwest back to DC, and the pilot was like, "Hey," it was like a little turbulent. He was like, "It's probably gonna be like that for the rest of this flight. Like maybe I had like an hour left." He said from the pressure from the nor'easter, and then there was a lot of delays after we got to DC trying to get back to Jersey because air traffic control, not have enough people, the weather, the runway, all these factors that kind of played in. So I thought it was going to kind of clear up because I didn't see much rain. But then when I was watching different games on the East Coast and different little video clips I saw on social media, the rain was really a problem. So I'm surprised that, you didn't see more, like just more fumbles and more bad snaps. But we did see a lot of, some block kicks and some shank punts. Mm-hmm. Yeah, that nor'easter weather was really bothering me. It's still kind of misty to this day, and today's like it's Tuesday night.
All right, so here's a question for you. You'll love this question, I promise. So you're Mr. Facts over feelings.
Yep.
Don't bring feelings to a fact fight.
Absolutely.
Don't use emotion to make your argument.
Correct.
Was Penn State emotional this weekend when they fired James Franklin?
I want to say I'm going to say yes because logically paying a guy $49 million to not coach and you need to replace a lot of bodies because a lot of the seniors are going to go on to the NFL.
Well, the good news is they have the Matt Rule deal. Like they have that offset where if he gets another job, they have to pay the difference versus and it's in the contract that he has to actively look for a job. So he can't like just go home for a year. Like he has
to volunteer. I'm going to get a job at a high school coach. And in Western Pennsylvania.
I'm sure there's certain parameters that wouldn't allow that. They're probably maybe he needs to go to TV or something. Maybe that'd be the deal.
Yeah, I mean, whatever it is, listen, cut my check. Don't worry what I'm doing in my off time now. You I don't work for you anymore. Like, leave me alone. Mind your business. Right. They can rest on the fact that they're Penn State. They're in a great area of high school football recruiting, and then obviously with the transfer portal, and you can sell a guy who is quarterback at, let's say, we'll go UCLA, Nico. Like, hey, you want to come back and you want to come back to this side of the country, play some Big Ten football? we got this much money in NIL. We have this much, it's going to be this many fans here. We're going to be able to get this. You're going to get this 5-star guy who's, some really good wide receiver at West Virginia. Hey, you want to come across the battle lines, whatever case may be. I think they'll be able to replenish their talent. It's just that they're going to need a coach that is quickly charismatic and can get recruits in the building and run off 8 or 9 straight wins next year as Penn State head coach. And he's going to have to beat one of these other top teams that year. Because if he goes out and even though you're going to be one hand tied on your back because you got to start, kind of fresh. You can't go out here and lose to Ohio State next year. You can't lose to Michigan. Like, you got to win those games. No matter what the circumstances, no matter how many 5-stars they have,
oddly enough,
no one's going to want to hear it because we're paying $49 million to another guy who couldn't do it. We could have kept him here and paid him that $49 million if you can go 0-3 to Indiana, because Indiana seems like it's going to be a bit of a powerhouse in the next few years to deal with. Holla at your boy. If you can't beat those 3 teams, which he probably won't.
So oddly enough, the ironic thing about it is that they don't play Ohio State next year.
Oh, so
that's the ironic.
That's the ironic thing. Championship potentially, like you might have a path to where because you got the playoffs. So like I think all of that factors in. Like you gotta beat, what is these big schools.
So this is what I think. I think that they've wanted to fire James Franklin for quite some time, but they didn't have the buy-in. And they didn't have the numbers to back it up, the facts, like, he was still winning a lot of games. So you couldn't necessarily, because, you always like to tell me because, I want Sean McDermott gone and stuff like that. James Franklin definitely earned this firing, but it comes back to who are you going to get that's better? And the reason that I say that is because James Franklin, last 3 years, 34-8. Last year, they were 1 play away from the national title game. Since Penn State joined the Big Ten in 1991, they have three Big Ten titles. James Franklin got one of those, and when you look at where Penn State was a little while ago, with the whole Sandusky stuff, Bill O'Brien came in for a couple of years, did a decent job. But James Franklin had to overhaul that program. And this isn't 1980 anymore. You are not Ohio State. You are not, even though I give them a lot of, crap. Well, I'll just say Alabama. You're not Alabama. You're more in line with Nebraska. You're more in line with Notre Dame from the standpoint of you were the powers of the sport that have a breakout year every so often. Now, the thing that screwed Penn State is that the 12-team playoff didn't exist already because Penn State would have made the playoff more than any other team if we had the 12-team playoff. Back in 2016, the year that he won the Big Ten, they finished 11-2. They beat Ohio State that year, which was the last time they beat Ohio State. But they lost by 3 at Pitt. And then they lost to Michigan by, I think it was 37 points or something like that. Yeah. So in his time as Penn State's head coach, 39, it was actually 39, 49-10. So in his time at Penn State, he is 1-10 against Ohio State, 3-7 against Michigan, 5-5 against Michigan State. Penn State all time is 44-3-1 against Maryland. 44-3-1. 2 of those losses are James Franklin. So he earned this firing. No mistake about it. You know what I mean? But I don't think this was the right time. Drew Aller's out for the season now. So where do you go next? And here's a couple of names I want you to play around with.
Yeah, I'm looking at the buyout breakdown. That's what I was saying.
And I know you're going to crap on all these names, but I got justifications. All right, you ready? So, Sig Nasty, Matt Rule, Matt Campbell from Iowa State, Marcus Freeman, Would you leave Notre Dame to go?
Absolutely not.
Okay,
Absolutely not.
Here's a question. Now this question is a little more tongue in cheek, but let's just say Alabama loses this weekend to Tennessee. You know those fans are going to be going nuts.
Yeah, if that lady hit the Powerball, she said she's going to buy out Kalen DeBoer.
If you're Kalen DeBoer, do you consider getting out of this hellstorm and potentially going to somewhere like Penn State?
Nah,
I say no, but I mean,
yeah. I look at it like this: if I'm already at a program, what does Matt Rule gain from going to Penn State?
All right, so he is a former Penn State football player.
Okay,
you know, so he has the tie there. Penn State's athletic director, Pat Kraft, was Matt Rule's athletic director when he was at Temple. So it's not necessarily the relationship, right? It's not necessarily
but what does he gain that he is not going to get? Well, and this is something else.
I think it might be now. I'm thinking of it. So I think
there's an Adidas. Nebraska has an Adidas deal.
Yes.
Adidas is apparently going to, Penn State's leaving Nike. They're going with Adidas. I don't know. Maybe that kind of monetary relationship maybe gets them over. But as far as if I'm Matt Rule, what's in it for me? Unless you could bring a lot of your Nebraska players, which is
Dylan Raiola.
We know Sig Nasty did his. He brought a lot of guys from JMU. I don't see what's in it for Matt Rule because realistically, I think he's living off of like one hot, you made it a hot. He's like, one hot album in 10 years. I could divide. You know what I mean?
I think you're overstating that, though. I think you might.
But I think he had his Baylor run, and then he had the Temple run, and then he ran to the bank at TD or America Bank Field in Carolina when he took all their money, and then he went to Nebraska.
Kind of the thing.
So, what cachet is he really truly bringing other than I did above average at these two schools? I did poorly in the NFL, and now I'm doing above average.
But it wasn't just above average. Like Temple is one of the worst programs in the history of college football. They even got kicked out of a conference.
Family friends. I got a young guy who's a scout, freshman football player, just graduated. He's a scout at Temple. His mom.
Hey,
shout out to the Zarilli family. They're big Temple guys. Like, you're not going. Listen, that's my region. That's my block.
If this was the NFL, Temple's history is this year's Saints. You know what I mean? And they might be the Jets.
If we're looking at Matt Rule, all he did was go into a neighborhood, buy a townhouse, paint the inside, put some shutters up, put some flowers in the yard, and said, "Look what he did to beautify the neighborhood." And then he moved.
Other people had those same opportunities, and they didn't do it. You know what I'm saying? And then the Baylor thing. When you talk about Baylor, he didn't just take over Baylor. He took over Baylor after the rape scandals. You know what I mean? This was pre-NIL. So Baylor was in the mud as far as reputation, way worse than Penn State was, because the rapes were current at that. I don't know. We keep saying that word. Grape, I guess, is the right word you're supposed to say these days. But all that was going on.
First and I fought for it.
And nobody else would take that job. You know what I'm saying? Matt Rule stepped in and turned them into a playoff contender. He turned a poor row house into a nice looking Airbnb, and then he left. And Baylor took
he took another identical row house and he turned it into an Airbnb.
And Baylor hasn't done a lot.
Then he took a nice house in Carolina and stopped cutting the grass, and they had to get rid of him.
A nice house.
Carolina was a nice house.
Because the NFL team doesn't make it a nice house.
It was a nice house. It was
a nice,
bad team. Nice rancher. It's an NFL. you're only a couple of players and a couple of coaches away from being. We talk about worst to
but he
first. It
didn't
happens
have
in
them.
NFL all the time. And he didn't.
It'd
He
be
didn't
one thing
find
if
him.
he
He didn't
had
get
the
them.
team.
He didn't produce them. He didn't
It'd be one
generate
thing
them.
if he had
And
the
then he
team
went to
and just
Nebraska.
failed.
And he went to Nebraska. He got another nice row house. That's a nice current Airbnb.
And they're
That's
5-1 right now. They're ranked.
Yes, they're ranked.
When the last
What
time
are they going to
Nebraska
be at the
been
end of the
ranked?
year?
Like
Probably
I'm just saying, like
I'm not knocking him, but it's like if I'm Penn State, what am I seeing in him? Like Signetti, that guy has done
now. So here's the question. Here's the question.
He has the impact that Penn State wants.
What?
Matt Rule is basically a lighter version of James Franklin at this point because it's like there's no guarantee that he's getting over the hump.
Well, here's the question. So Signetti is from Pittsburgh, so he's a Pennsylvania dude. But with where he has Indiana right now, is it worth leaving Indiana even if it's for Penn State?
I don't think it's worth leaving Indiana. If he was at like Cincinnati, if he was somewhere like, I'm thinking like old money universities and like up and coming. Like if you had UCF playing at a high level, you had South Florida playing at a high level, you had UAB, ranked around 23, maybe down to 27. You had one of these kind of organizations. Yeah, I would take that jump to Penn State. But if I'm already in that conference and I'm putting myself in a position to win the conference that Penn State is in, then I'm looking at them as like, I want you to suck for the next few years. So I want you to go make a bad hire so I can continue to build my program here and really put something substantial out there.
All right. So last two names. So this one isn't mine. I've heard this one around the blotter, if you will. Yeah. Manny Diaz, is a name that's being thrown out there. And then I like Eli Drinkwitz, the head coach at Missouri. So do you leave Missouri SEC to go to Penn State?
See, that's tough. That's tough.
Because I think Manny Diaz would come. I think he would come if he got the
Where's
offer.
He currently at right now?
He's at Duke right now. He was former Miami coach.
Now that
then when he got fired from Miami, he was the Penn State defensive coordinator.
Missouri Duke's more popular name because of basketball, but they don't have a football, acronym. What's like, on the grand scheme of college football. I think Missouri over the last like 20 years has kind of they put a lot of guys in the NFL. They've been in the SEC for a while. They've been holding their own.
Yeah, they made the SEC championship game their first 2 years.
Yeah, so I think, and I believe they're probably one of the better programs in that area. So as far as recruiting, I think you're in a nice hotbed of football talent right there where you are, and you're in the SEC where you're going to get a big cut of some big checks
and the benefit of the doubt when it comes playoff time.
A 9-10-2 Missouri with a win over Bama and a win over Ole Miss is going to get a lot more than a 9-3 Penn State with a win over Tulane and some other you got your best wins are American Conference team. So I think that will, but yeah, if I wouldn't leave Missouri to go to Penn State. All I gotta
say is James Franklin, rescue me from Mike Locksley. Now I know the Terps are 4-2 right now. You know what I mean? But they started 4-0. They lost these last two. He has not won a game in October for about 3 or 4 years now.
So
the opposite of
go to Maryland.
The opposite of Cocktober. Well, he was he was the coach in waiting at one point under Ralph Friedgen, and then Friedgen wouldn't retire. He got fired, so then James Franklin ended up at Vanderbilt, but he was supposed to be the coach in waiting.
I could see a coach from trying to give
There's another job there's 2 more jobs that I got James Franklin.
I see if Kentucky was having a good run. I think Tennessee. I think Heupel probably is because it's hit or miss in Tennessee. You're gonna play well. You have a tough run, but it's like, can I take this to Penn State? Because I think he's in that position of where I think I could take this program to Penn State, and the expectations will be realistic and not too high. And I don't think the people in Tennessee will be like, oh my God, I can't believe you betrayed us because they're Tennessee. I believe they can feel like, well, we can go out and get
I think it's
the
the
next hot guy to
opposite.
finish
Like,
our
you don't
spot.
fire a dude like James Franklin without thinking like, we're not meeting our potential and we should be winning national titles. I mean, even though you haven't won a national title since 1987, but I'm just saying, you know what I mean? But yeah, so let me get to that real quick. So I was going to talk about the hot seat real quick. I'm going to go through this really quick, but the two schools that I had James Franklin besides Maryland, I was serious about that, but I don't know how realistic Maryland is. So here's two schools that I think James Franklin should consider. So one, Virginia Tech. I think he should consider that, and it's already open. For a job that's not open right now that I think will be open by the time the end of the season happens, I think he should go to Michigan State because I think that's coming open. So real quick, I'm going to go through this.
Hold on. So let's roll a little note here. See if I can get it to zoom in on the camera. You got that? You got that? That's all.
No from the Hokies.
That's the text message I'm sending back to everybody who reaches out to me trying to hire me.
Okay.
Nah, I'm good.
Okay. All right. So real quick, I'm gonna go through this hot seat. I'm only doing the Power 4 conferences. And on a side note, Trent Dilfer finally got fired this weekend. Trent Bray got fired at Oregon State. So jobs are just happening. And we might see Billy Napier in the next couple of weeks, but just so real quick, ACC, there's already rumors that Belichick is trying to get out, as long as he gets a safe landing spot. So North Carolina could be appealing if they're willing to put money into the program.
That might have been the worst hire of the year.
Of the decade.
All sports, all head coaches who were hired in all sports. I think that might be up there as one of the worst ones.
The only hire in the decade that was worse was Brian Callahan. So over at NC State, Dave Doran.
Belichick's still worse.
Dave Doran, he's built a solid program. They haven't reached heights in a few years. They're a solid program, but they're never going to challenge for anything. So I think he might be on the hot seat just as far as getting a fresh face in there. And then I cannot escape this segment without saying Florida State. Just beat Bama about a month ago. Now on a 3-game losing streak, 2 of them at home, 2 of them to teams that were unranked at the time that they played Florida State. Go ahead and lose to Stanford this weekend, Mike. I dare you. You know what I'm saying? SEC, Mark Stoops. We've been talking about him for about 2 years, not because he's a bad coach, but because he took the Texas A&M job and then lost it. So, it's never been right since that's happened. Maybe Kirk Ferentz finally retires. He goes to Iowa, which is his alma mater, and you go from there. Arkansas is already open. After Saturday, which me and Mr. Logical will get to shortly, I think Hugh Freeze is pretty much out of here, at Auburn. I think Florida, Billy Napier, I already mentioned him. If LSU finishes any worse than 9-3, Brian Kelly's name might end up in that Penn State conversation.
That would make sense because 9-3, if LSU is willing to potentially move off of him at 9-3, then I think the people will feel like 9-3 is a good year for that conference. And so I think it would drum up some kind of support for him because it's like, well, we can get 10-2 here if he's going 9-3 consistently in the SEC. So that I like that because I think that's the kind of move that Penn State needs to make. Like they can't go get Bobby Petrino or they can't go get like one of these guys who has been kind of like just waiting in the wings of Kentucky, or they can't go get an assistant from Georgia. Like they need a guy that's been on the big stage, headset on, calling the plays on, 4th and 1 to go 4 to 9 and getting teams prepared for big games. They need one of those kind of guys.
And then real quick, I know I can't be the only person on this planet that's tired of hypothetical who would win games between Big Ten and SEC teams. If we're talking about Ohio State and Bama, we could have that conversation. If we're talking about Georgia and Michigan, let's have a conversation. I don't give any flying damns about who would win a game between Vanderbilt and Northwestern. I don't care who would win between UCLA and Mississippi State. Keep it to yourself. Anyway, Big 12, Coach Prime, just because of his health. You know what I mean? They got the big win over Iowa State this weekend, so flowers to him. I know I've been one of his biggest critics, but they went out and beat a ranked team. So the same way I criticized them, I got to give them the credit. So good job, Coach Prime. Oklahoma State's already open. Arizona could come open depending on how the season ends. They're starting off strong this year, but we'll see how that goes. And then Baylor, of course, Dave Aranda, he got off the hot seat last year with a good finish. He got to do it again. And then finally, the Big Ten real quick. Jonathan Smith, I just brought that up. I think Michigan State comes open this year. Luke Fickell is probably gone after this weekend, at Wisconsin, because Ohio State is probably going to do something like 48-7. And, they got a bye week next week coming off of getting shut out 37-0 by Iowa last weekend. I don't think Luke Fickell's long for this job. I already brought up Loxley, and we'll see what happens, if Maryland can turn it around. And then I brought up Iowa. And then last one, and this is more of a wish of mine than anything factual, but I don't know how long, and I know you're just – I promise I'm not picking on you. I know that you're just Rutgers, what I'm saying, in the heart of New Jersey.
Yeah.
But Greg Schiano been there long enough now that you shouldn't still be fighting just to make a bowl game. And he went to Penn State too, by the way. But he ain't getting that job.
So I looked up as you're running all these names. I'm just kind of doing the math in my head, and I was like, okay, I wonder how many coaches on average get fired. And it says
not very many.
On AI, it's like 30 to 32 head coaching jobs per year at the FBS level.
So last year it was only from the Power 5. I think it was like 3 or 4, and people are blaming that on NIL because like if you're Billy Napier, right? If I fire Billy Napier, DJ Lagway walking out the door. I got to consider that. You know what I mean?
So I think these coaches should be kind of praising the price tag that the players came with.
Like Matt Rule, right? Like Matt Rule, right? If Matt Rule leaves, Nebraska's like, are we losing Raiola?
You absolutely will, 100%. Because he's not going to want to start over with a new coach, especially if that coach is going to a school that's going to get him, pardon my pun, some new toys. I'm gonna get you some top tier talent with this Adidas money at Penn State. I know we got this Adidas money here. We're getting $300 million Adidas money in Penn State if you want to come with me. Yeah, I understand that. But 30, 32 coaches out of, FBS levels, 134, 135 teams. It's not that crazy. If I'm the SEC, I'm seeing how it plays out. I'm not firing my coach first because it might be a couple defensive players on Auburn that I could use here at Texas A&M. It might be a couple of wide receivers that, Arkansas is going to lose that I think I can make stars over here in Alabama. So it's like I'm looking around at the talent. If I'm the athletic director, it's like, okay, even if you want to get rid of Kalen DeBoer, you can say, you know what? I think we're in a better position than Mississippi State. I think if you are Ole Miss, you're watching to see who gets fired because, Lane Kiffin is the ultimate recruiter. I think he's probably one of like these recent guys. He's probably one of my favorite recruiters. I think he just handles the social media and the spectacle and the snootiness and the arrogance. I think he just combines that well, and it's authentic to him. And I think people rock with that. So if I'm looking around, I'm like,
Penn State.
If I could take a handful of these SEC guys with me,
I think
if I could take some of these speedy Auburn wide receivers, if I could take some of these, these SEC defensive tackles and take them up there to the Big Ten, even though it's 18 teams in it, I'll consider it.
Well, his name is always rumored with the Florida job anyway, but just a hypothetical. But Mr. Logical brought up, we brought up the SEC, we brought up Auburn. So let's get right to it. You know what I mean? There was a call on Saturday night that might have changed everything for this season. Might have ended Hugh Freeze's stay in the great old state of Alabama, even though I would argue that it's West Georgia, but whole nother conversation. So here we are, taking it from the top, Mr. Logical.
Let's see it.
So let it run about 2 more times just to get some eyes on it again. Get this
Who's
slow-mo
number
going.
0?
Slow-mo going.
Who's number 0? How does he not see this ball right here? It bounced off your chest and arm.
All right, one more time. This is from Dog Nation, by the way. So one more time.
I didn't realize how many times it bounced off of his chest.
All right. I want to hear from y'all out there too. Touchdown or no touchdown? Me and Mr. Logical, we're having this conversation off air. I hate the rule. I hate it. In my perfect world, it's not a touchdown. But given that I've been watching football for a very long time, I've seen lesser plays be called touchdowns just because of where the ball ended up before the punch out. Now, his arm was extended out.
Yeah. So you want to play back up and kind of pause it? So I can kind of get that
yeah. And then
I'll investigative look on.
Yeah.
All right. So Wilson, an actual Wilson is playing defense.
No relation.
You're going to be able to see. So Wilson's here, but I don't think he punched out. All right. You can see this white glove here in the middle of the screen. Can you put the mouse on it? That white glove. So in my opinion, at this point, granted, I know the camera angle is off, and I think if it was lined up, we have a completely different story. But from my vantage point, my opinion, I think the white glove is outside of the end zone. So the Georgia defender is coming through with the punch. I think his fist is already outside of the end zone. And you got Jackson Arnold here. He has the ball tucked in to his body. His body's not across yet. So when he punches his arm, that ball is out. So it looks like he has the ball in control. The ball's already moving here. So if his fist is outside the end zone and he makes contact with the arm outside the end zone and the ball comes out of his hands outside the end zone, granted, it's a game of inches. But as we're looking at it, the camera is like this. So we can't get this straight down the line view. I think the camera needs to go, a couple of yards to the right, so it's right down the line. But I just feel like because he doesn't really show control of the ball and the goal line, I don't think the refs can look at him and be like, oh, he definitely came across, because the ball's already gone. As soon as he makes contact with the fist, the ball's out. And it never looked like he had any control anywhere near the top of the pile. Like when he lunged,
to me, the ball was at the plane, when it got punched. You know what I mean? So, yes, his hand was out of the end zone, but still, I think, aligned with the plane. So, like I said, I think the
arm got punched and the ball came loose. So when you're saying the ball crossed the plane, he didn't have the ball in his hand. The ball might have crossed the plane. It wasn't in his hand.
I think it was very bang bang. And I think that if I was a ref, I think I just stick with whatever I called at the time. Like if I called it a touchdown, it would stay a touchdown. If I didn't call it a touchdown,
if it was called a touchdown, I would call it a fumble. I'd be if I had the down the line shot, but based off what I'm saying, I would have called it a fumble just because.
But then
arm out, his body was tucked. He didn't control the ball. So when he landed on top of his guards and his linemen, he didn't have the ball then. I was like, that's where the guards are.
But then it was another one of those dumb plays where the ref blew the whistle. So the Georgia player took it to the house. So they took away 2 touchdowns on that play. You know what I'm saying? But the
And
crazy
you hear it all the time where like the refs see it and you just let it play out. Like it happened in my son's high school game where our quarterback went to throw like a screen pass. The defender knocked it down. It was rolling around behind the line of scrimmage. The refs didn't blow the whistle. They jumped on it. Then they talked about it. Even though these refs were just not the smartest guys in striped shirts, but it was clearly like they let it play out. And then another ref came and said, no, he was throwing the ball downfield as incomplete pass. But you let it play out because there's no harm. And this is the thing and this is the part I don't get with referees being like a sideline dad for all these years. You're probably a sports fan if you're a referee. I can guarantee you, if you're an Eagles fan and you also ref high school games in this area, you have not agreed with every ref's call against the Eagles. So to act as if an angry parent or fan or coach is mad at you because of a call, he's like, I made the call. I'm 100% right. Like that level of arrogance has no place on earth. I'm like, it's just too much. That's TV level arrogance. You cannot sit here and act as if you got every call right. So when it's a bang, bang fumble or forward pass or goal line, let it play out. You don't have to come in there with your ego saying, no, his arm definitely was going forward. And then we go to the replay and there's no ball in his hand when he's moving his arm forward. It's like, oh, just shut up and stay out of the way. You're not part of the game. You're on the outside looking in like the rest of us. Let the play out. If it gets scooped up and he runs all the way down there and they do the replay and it's like, oh, it's a touchdown, then that 20-year-old
blows.
He just ran 100 yards for nothing. You don't need to run in and create a bigger problem because you can't remedy that by just saying, okay, I messed up. Here's your points. So you're literally messing it up on so many different levels. And it's like, you can't resolve it if you come in there too early and mess it up. You can resolve it on the end of the play. Let the play out.
So then there was Kirby Smart in the timeout or not.
Lying his ass off.
He literally ran down the field to get the timeout call. And like me as a ref, I'm supposed to think that you ran down here to clap.
My biggest issue with the calling the timeout so you don't get a delay of game, I think delay of game should be 10-yard penalties off the rip just because it's stupid. Just you're procedurally stupid. You know how much time you have. We talked about the Chiefs and
especially if a home team
Detroit. The Chiefs in Detroit. You know, Detroit, Jared Goff was talking to the ref after the penalty when the clock was still running. They got another delay of game penalty instead of being in the line of scrimmage or doing whatever they were doing. Like, so they got the motion penalty, you got 5 yards back. He was arguing with the ref. And the clock was ticking away, and they got a delay of game penalty and ended up kicking a longer field goal. It was like, that's stupid. So if you can't handle a 5-yard penalty because you're about to get a delay of game, it's like, how important are those timeouts when you got to get 3 stops and get the ball back? Why are you wasting a timeout any time and a half where that isn't important, especially in a tight game, a close game? Why are you wasting time out? I get it. The 5 yards might be very important, but I've seen they did it on first down. They do it on second down. Unless it's 4th and 1, don't worry about it. You mean to tell me you don't have a play that can get you 5 extra yards in the event you get a delay of game penalty? It's like, calm down. Like it literally blows my mind when coaches waste timeouts, especially in games where you know it's going to be tight and I'm going to need these timeouts. Why are you wasting them?
But I think after that happened, that was the moment Hugh Freeze lost his job, because as soon as that happened and the ref reversed that timeout, you could just see, like, if you could see somebody like cower into a chair and like slide down, that was Hugh Freeze in that moment. Like, what can I do? Like, I'm playing against Georgia already. I'm playing coaching against Kirby Smart already. And I got to deal with this too. Like, you know what I'm saying? Like, my stress levels can't handle this. So I think he basically quit.
And the number of people who wear ref hats and shirts at a game every single play. I think we did the math. It's like 11 people who are actively on the field watching these plays happen, and you're still missing wide open holding calls. You're missing receptions versus interceptions versus drops versus
7 of them.
So it's 7 people on the field
Yeah.
that are throwing flags. There's still refs that are communicating with the coaches too. That aren't actually like there's like guys that when you want to call it, there's a couple of guys on each side of the field for that.
Because then the people in the booth.
People in the booth, and there's people on the sideline that are just wearing the black jackets but the hats. So you have anywhere between, we'll say, 7 and 14 people whose job is to ref the game, and you have one numbnut come in and blowing the whistle thinking the play's over. It's like, let it play out. You cannot be for sure if what's actually happening didn't happen. So you can't like, this 100% happened. It's like, we are watching this not be the case. You were wrong, but there's no repercussions for it. At least not publicly. Like, they don't swap them out. Like, yo, ref, you got too many missed penalty calls. Tag out. We bring another guy in. They just keep pressing on.
So, Mr. Logical, the Hoosiers did that.
Shocking. I mean, listen,
I don't think
any one of my college football picks, any big game, I don't think I nailed one yet. I don't
think it's shocking.
I had like real logic behind it, but I don't think I picked one correctly yet.
Well, I don't think it's shocking because I think that this is a microcosm of the world that we live in. You know, because I was talking to our guy, Black Adam, and he told me, oh, John Mateer did nothing but hurt. I know I'm talking about a different game, but I'm going to get there. Yeah. He goes, you know, John Mateer just blew his stock because he's playing like crap right now. So I'm like, okay, I wasn't very high on John Mateer NFL wise anyway, but I was like, hold up. So he was the Heisman before he got hurt.
Correct.
He's playing with a thumb that he just had surgery on his throwing hand against a great defense, one of the better defenses in the nation, and his stock fell. Like, so if he comes back next week and throws for 400, his stock is back up. Like, I don't. So I say that to say, Indiana. I think a lot of people were looking at the name Indiana. They were looking at last year and going, I saw y'all against Ohio State. I saw what Notre Dame did to y'all, and they applied it to this year's team. But Oregon, everybody had as the, you know, they were the number 2 team in the nation. They fell to number 3 last week, but, you know, they were a top 3 team in the nation. And then we go back and look at their schedule. You know, Montana State, Oregon State, who hasn't won a game yet, just fired their coach. You know, Northwestern, you know, who made news because they beat Penn State this weekend. Penn State, the team that everybody said that we overrated and they weren't that good.
The championship.
Right. And they went to overtime with this team. And now, all of a sudden, Oregon's this great team. So now Indiana goes in there. So using that logic, am I supposed to say now, Oregon sucks, man?
Well, you know how the pendulum swings when it comes to sports. Like right now, it's Tuesday. It's 10:41 p.m. out here on the East Coast, Dirty Jers. You know, we do our next show Friday. It's going to be completely different. Someone's going to feel like, oh, Indiana being number 3 is too high. They shouldn't be that high because of their schedule or what they did last year.
Well, Indiana.
So it's like it's always going to be something. There's always going to be something that people feel like. Like I saw something that was like if Indiana was named Miami, they'd be number 1 or something.
It's so probably it's just true.
Like, but we know this every year, and it's rare that a team that has real top tier national championship talent or skill or aspirations gets left out. It's rare that, like, even when Boise State was going on their runs, going 11-1, and you had Hawaii out there going 12-0, 13-0, and they put them in the 4-team tournament. They was getting rolled. Yeah, there's an anomaly every once in a while. Boise State, like I said, they beat Oklahoma, or when Utah beat Pitt in their BCS bowl game. they beat Alabama, and it happens. But generally, that's not the case, and it's rare that you're not gonna. I think it was one year we had like what was it like a 12-0 Miami, 11-1 Florida State, and like a 12-0 Auburn when Jason Campbell.
Oh, you talking about that year? It was
that
USC,
year.
Oklahoma, and Auburn.
Yeah, so it's like that's an anomaly. But now with the 12 teams, those 12 teams that are in there, the teams 13 through 17 aren't really like, oh man, we really had a shot at the national championship. It's unlikely. So, like I said, it'll all pan out. The cream will rise to the top.
Yeah, but Indiana beat them up.
Indiana, Indiana's showing like, hey, yeah, okay, we came in here prepared. We went on the road. Yeah, last year we had a run, but you think about teams that had a great run out of nowhere, they don't normally follow it up with a great run the year after that great surprise run. Like, we talked about all those teams that like the Cincinnati teams and stuff like that. But NIL is supposed to make it difficult theoretically because you can go anywhere.
Well, that's the thing, right? Because we talked about how he brought in his players from JMU last year, and this is year 2. And they upgraded that quarterback through the NIL. They went and got a better quarterback. You know what I mean? So, and they have NFL receivers that people don't know about because it's Indiana. You know what I'm saying? Elijah Surratt, is one of the best receivers in the country. D'Angelo Pons, I've been talking about him all off season, but and I think that's it. A lot of people, that was probably the first time they saw Indiana this year. You know what I mean? So they know Oregon's name. They saw Oregon. At the very least, they know that Oregon went into Happy Valley and pulled that game out in overtime. At the very least, they know that. And people went, well, they had a big game already this year. Indiana didn't. So that's why you got to watch the games. But Red River, right? We were talking about this, and you were talking about how I don't get these big games right. And that was the thing that I was talking about when we made our preview. There was no logic, as far as, X's and O's. There was no like, hey, Oklahoma's going to do this. Texas is going to do this. I just simply said, when it's Red River and there's a team that obviously should win, and it's the same thing I just talked about with the Cowboys. You know what I mean? Even though they just lost to the Panthers, I don't want to play them this week. It's the same thing I say about Florida State and Miami. I want Miami to win the week before they play Florida State because coming off a loss, I know what's going to happen. So Texas coming off that loss, is their season over? Is it? Nah, man, they was going to win that game. And then so what I was going to ask you about that game was, at what point? So John Mateer had his Willis Reed moment. He's back. He's got the thumb injury. Obviously, it's not going well. At what point as a head coach do you say, I love you, son. I'm glad that you felt the need to come out here and lead your teammates, but I got to sit you?
He wants to die on his shield.
And this
I know Texas. It seems
this is the Red River,
Texas. It's the rivalry game. And I don't know if you get Caleb Williams came in for Spencer Rattler because it just was discombobulation. It was problems going on, and he led the comeback. And Spencer Rattler's career was never the same. Like, he was basically cast off, and now he's out here in New Orleans trying his best to win for that franchise.
Bless his heart.
Bless his heart. I mean, you're 6'3", you're 6'3" at halftime, and then you just get stymied in the second half. Maybe the hands started to hurt more, or maybe he's looking like, you know what? We still can end this season top 12. We're still going to get a chance. So I'm going to let this guy go out there and gut it out. Because if he does have his Willis Reed moment, and Willis Reed literally played like a few minutes and he left the game after that. I think people they see the video of him coming, like the old grainy videos coming out. I think he played like 2 minutes. I think he got a layup and then he was out. Right. So if they do pull that one out, that's a piece they can ride for the rest of the season. Losing it, now you're in the building like, this guy played on a surgically repaired hand because this is what it means to him. What does it mean to you? So now this could be your rallying cry going forward. instead of a quarterback controversy that ended up having your coach gone, your backup quarterback gone, the starting quarterback gone. They all went to USC, and then you were like in shambles for a couple of years. So I don't know if it would have gotten that big. I mean, that's a huge extrapolation from what previously happened, but I do think you can. He was a Heisman front runner. He had them in the conversation for, being in this top 12 college football playoff. I don't think you pull him. If he says he can go, you let him keep going.
I think you got to pull him because, we've been talking about Oklahoma's schedule, you know what I mean? Especially over the next few weeks, I think they needed this game, like they losing that game might have ended their playoff chances, in my opinion, because you look at it over the next few weeks and we got to see how quickly his thumb gets better, I guess, you know what I mean? Because they go to your squad this week, you know what I mean? They're going to play your squad. The Gamecocks, you know what I'm saying, on the road, and it's Cocktober, you know what I'm saying? Then the next week they play Ole Miss. The week after that, they're going to Neyland to play Tennessee. The week after that, they're going to Tuscaloosa. The week after that, they're going to Missouri. And then they close out the season the week after that with LSU.
Yeah, that's what happens when you go to SEC. Like, you can't lose any games, but you're definitely in position to lose a lot of them because you're probably playing the most NFL-rich talent pool.
But I'm just talking about making the playoffs. Like, I ain't talking about just losing games. I'm just talking about making the playoffs.
But they could, even with this win against Texas, they could still go out here and lose,
They could, but Texas, the media loves Texas for whatever reason. So, you get
it'll be a good loss. You'll get a benefit for a good loss. But like I said, they play a tough schedule. If you need confidence in your team going forward, if this loss and the fact that this guy gutted it out, if like I said, the whole Ed Reed thing, I'm hurt, but like it resonated. So if he's playing through this pain, now if he goes out there again next week and it's like, okay, this isn't healed. It's one thing to play through pain and, make impact plays one week and you gut it out. But all right, now you can't keep just gutting it out. Like at some point you have to be healthy because you have the ball in your hand too much for your hand not to be healthy. Like you can have one game where it's like, listen, like Phillip Rivers played on a torn ACL in the AFC Championship game, and I'm pretty sure he would have played in the Super Bowl if they would have won that game. He might not have gone and done anything in the offseason, but he was going to play those 2 football games. But I don't know if he plays week 6 through week 16 back when they played 16 games with a torn ACL. See what I'm saying? Right. So if you can gut it out for this one game and then you can get healed and then you can lean on a run next week or a short pass game or maybe force turnovers and then you can get a win and eke it out and you can keep healing. But like I said, let him in the rivalry game die in the shield.
I know it's not Friday, but I'm putting them on upset alert. And you know what I mean? Also for a game on Friday, I got Nebraska on upset alert going to Minnesota. But we'll wrap this up real quick around the nation real quick. So I'm from Maryland, right? And I might be one of the few Marylanders. I like Virginia. I like the state of Virginia.
Yeah, it's not a bad little spot.
Old Dominion. All season long, I've been talking about, hey, Old Dominion, James Madison, when they clash this year, it's going to be epic. It might even involve a playoff spot. And you know what Old Dominion did this weekend? They went undefeated, and then they went out this weekend, and they lost by like 60,000 points to Marshall. You know what I'm saying? Which does nothing for me. Boise and UNLV this week. UNLV still got playoff hopes. I don't think Boise does at this point. But I brought that up to say, Mr. Logical, did you know that UNLV, how you talked about the Jets gave up 13 points, but you didn't think they were going to win? Yeah. UNLV gave up 48 points to the United States Air Force Academy and got out of there with a win, 51-48. Navy, saying went for 2. against Temple to win that game and remain undefeated. I love it because now coaches play for overtime. This was old school. Let me get the 2 and let's get out of here with the win. So I love
if you
that.
have a 2-point play that you love, you go for 2.
You go for it. You go for it.
You should have multiple 2-point plays that you love.
Yeah, here's another Friday night upset alert. Louisville going to Miami. You know, the last 4 times or the last 3 times that they've played, it's been a 1-score game. I saw Miami by 7.5. And last year with Cam Ward, in for example, 52-45 final score. So, you know, we'll see how that goes. Mr. Logical Vegas trying to trick us.
Just hear it.
These are 3 games that are weird. They got Vandy favored over LSU. They got Duke favored over Georgia Tech. And they got Auburn favored over Missouri. Vegas trying to trick us. They either know something or we're missing something.
I mean, I think they'd be tricking themselves because they will lose money. I imagine people are going to bet heavy on Missouri because you're talking
heavy
about
on LSU just off the name.
You got Auburn ready to get rid of their coach. You feel like he emotionally died during this last game. So I can't imagine that he's going to be ramped up to play Missouri, who just played Alabama very tough.
I mean, granted, it's at home. So, you know, Jordan Hare.
Then you said Vandy over LSU in Tennessee
it's in Nashville. Yeah.
In Nashville.
They're only favored by
LSU going to be out here partying with all the bachelorette parties in Nashville before the game starts. I can't imagine that Vandy's made that much of a turnaround where they're favored. And I read something that this is like the first time they've been favored in like 48 years. I don't know, some crazy number, but it's like the first time they've been favored in like a long time.
Duke favored over Georgia Tech by 2.5, you know, is odd. You know, I think Duke might win the game, but we'll come back to that on Friday. Indiana, we talked about them a few minutes ago. This is the highest that they've ever been ranked. So salute to them. Last thing, Mr. Logic, before we get out of here, Rob Ryan and somebody named Adrian Clem are on the USC staff. They are former Patriot staffers at different times, but still nonetheless. USC got fined $5,000 because they listed Brian Jackson as out. And then they played him against Michigan this weekend. How you feeling about that?
Well, how I'm feeling is that you sent me the link, and the first thing I said was like anybody from New England on the coaching staff. That was my reply. I read the thumbnail and I replied like anybody from any former New England coaches on that staff, because that's what New England would like to manipulate the injury chart. I personally think it has to be like some kind of HIPAA violation for a guy's medical, like the thing that's actually the elbow, knee, whatever it is, to just be kind of like broadcast. Hockey is upper body, lower body. That's all you get. That's all you need. Because what are you going to do? Like plan for a guy not to be in? Like you need to prepare yourself from whomever is going to wear the opponent's jersey and whatever they do.
But it's one thing if you list them as like probable or questionable, but he was listed as out.
Yeah, but does that change how you're going to play defensively if one running back isn't in? You still want to tackle the guy behind the line of scrimmage.
So this
you still want to scheme them not to get first downs.
So this particular situation may not. But imagine, you know, you get the report that says Jeremiah Smith is out. And then in the middle of the third quarter, Jeremiah Smith goes 88 on you.
You should know that he's on the team. That's all you should be. You're no matter who's out there, the same way you would bracket Jeremiah Smith, which I hope you would just have that same defensive plan for the next wide receiver that's up. Because I don't know if you've been looking around the NFL lately, but it's like 8 guys from Ohio State over the last 4 or 5 years that are catching a lot of touchdown passes from various quarterbacks.
Yeah, we just talked about JSN leading the league in yards.
Marvin Harrison, Garrett Wilson out here playing for his life, just doing cardio in the Jets. But when he gets the ball,
he's injured now, he ain't gonna be there.
He's probably making some of the best contested catches because he's literally the scheme doesn't ever get him open. He just has to be open. He's double. Yeah. He's bracketed all the time, and he's still out there, getting 1,000-yard seasons with this terrible organization. So anybody on Ohio State, I'm assuming that guy's going to be a future wide receiver, and we doubling him. I don't care what the injury report says. Matter of fact, don't even send it to me. Just send me the roster and their measurements. And I'm assuming everybody's healthy, and that's how we're going to play that game. But like I said, I figured it was a New England guy on the staff when I saw it.
So by the way, quick side note, since we're talking about USC, this weekend is the battle for the jeweled shillelagh. They're going to South Bend to play the Irish. So this is Notre Dame's last chance to try to be able to make an impression on the committee, as far as the college football playoff goes. And then this is a game where USC needs it because they took that loss to Illinois a couple of weeks ago. They still got a trip to Oregon coming up. So this might be a game you want to win if you're USC, besides the fact that it's the rivalry.
So, the rivalry is for sure.
Yeah, so we will be back on Friday, with NFL picks, college picks. We're going to be back at a later date with our NBA preview. So signing off, he is the one and only world-renowned, world-famous, cool, calm, and collected, born in Texas, raised in Virginia, representing everything in New Jerusalem to include the Devils, but not the Jets or the Giants.
Yeah, it's not my fault. I can't go with that. I can't rock with it.
He is Mr. Logical. Do not bring feelings to a fact fight.
Don't do it.
And then, of course, down here in the Alamo, it's your resident unorthodox statistician going left so much you thought I was southpaw. I heard Manny Pacquiao and Lomachenko might be signing something in January. Neither one of them going to see the punch coming, but I see it. So we will be back on Friday. Like, review, subscribe, share, rate, do all the free things. Do all the good things, preferably with a liquid death in your hand. We love y'all so much. Thanks for joining us. See you in a few days. Enjoy your weekday football. Delaware and Jacksonville State tomorrow. My Hilltop is getting their ass kicked right now.
From the east to the west, it's the order we shout. Mic check, lights flash, game time, stay ready. 2 vets in the zone, keep the pressure real heavy.